Do you wave your terrible towel when Renegade plays? Reach for a tasty cake when JJ shouts, "He scores!" Does the sound of an F1 engine make your heart race? Doing push-ups with a Nittany Lion after a TD? Then lend us an ear, and we will share the exhilaration of Steelers football, the excitement of Flyers hockey, the nail-biting finishes of F1, and the pride when we yell, "We are Penn State." Welcome to the SteelFlyers Show, the strangest combination of sports fandom since pineapple was put on pizza. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the SteelFlyers All Sports Network, and we have got a very, very special show for you here today. That's right, it is the NHL Trade Dead Line, and we got the best people on the planet to talk about it and to go over everything with you. That's right, folks, we brought in the great, the wonderful, the writer extraordinaire, the Lance Green. How you doing, Lance?
I'm all right, guys. How are you?
Oh, yeah, man. And the beat writer for the Reading Royals, also another great writer from Flyers Nitty Gritty, the great Professor Joe Borek. How you doing, Joe?
Good. Always exciting during deadline season. This year I've been double busy because of covering baseball and hockey, but it's
Right.
been fun.
Awesome sauce. Yeah, I know, like hockey's we're starting to wind down here in the regular season. Obviously, now we're talking about trade deadline day, and that's approximately 5 weeks-ish away from the end of the regular season. And I wouldn't even say this would be a trade deadline day. I would say this would be a trade deadline week, right? Because, look, because the trade deadline is so late this season, there have been, Calgary started off with Toffoli way back in, when was that? The end of January or something?
It's been a while, yeah?
Yeah, it's been a minute since that trade was made.
Right?
That was February 14th. I just scrolled back. February 14th.
Okay, so there you go. So I was 2 weeks off. But still, that's traditionally right around where the NHL trade deadline is. And because of whatever's going on and all that, they have moved it to today, March 21st, 2022. I'd like to get your take on some of the moves that's already made or have been made, and I want to start off because both of you guys cover the Flyers, cover the Phantoms, cover the Reading Royals, cover the entire, you know what I mean? But we also cover the entire league as well, too. But I want to get your take on the Claude Giroux move and I want to get your take on what you guys feel was the return and how do the Flyers look moving forward and what your opinions are on this move. So I want to start with you, Lance, and what is your take on this Claude Giroux trade? What is your take on the move that was made, I believe on Saturday? The move was announced that Claude Giroux was going to be traded from the Philadelphia Flyers after playing in his 1,000th game on Thursday. And so what do you think, Lance?
Well, it was a little disappointing in my mind. Although I do like Owen Tippett. I wrote about the Flyers previously, the fact that they should try to acquire him, a proven shooter in the OHL, and he's had a lot of success in the American Hockey League level, over a point per game player. I like him, but I think there's better deals out there to be had, especially through Colorado with the rumblings of Justin Barron and a first coming back, a later first, of course, since the Colorado doesn't have one this season. But for what it was, Giroux stopped a lot of trades elsewhere and kind of really limited the Flyers in who they could talk to, just basically being the Panthers. So with no other teams out there, this is what they could get. They weren't going to bid against themselves. So, the fact that we did get a 2024 first-round pick, a third-round pick in 23, and Owen Tippett, a proven sniper at the lower levels, you got to take what you can get there. We also were able to free up a couple of contracts in Bunton and Rubestov. which I like, so that possibly once the NCAA season ends, we can sign some of our own guys like Brink, Ronnie Attard, and Noah Cates, any of them could possibly come in and get signed. So, I really like what Tippett brought to the table. You saw him in his first game with the Flyers, making some good passes right on the stick. Definitely had a couple nice shots in there as well. I would like to see him get a little bit better stick handling. He fobbled the puck a little bit, trying to make some stuff happen. And skating with a puck is not really his strong point. His strong points are going to be setting up and firing the puck on a power play, which, he's seen he rang the bell off the post a time or two. So his shot's there. Let's see what comes of it. Should be a nice addition with the people coming in.
So what would be your grade of the Flyers for this move?
Tough to say. With C plus, if Giroux didn't have all the say in the world about it, but being that Giroux held all the cards, I think they got what they could out of it. In that case, maybe a B minus. In that case, if you factor those factors in there, so
okay. Pro Joe, look, we've talked about the potential. All the way through where we thought he was going to go, who we thought we could get. What's your assessment of this move here for the Flyers with Claude Giroux to the Flyers or to the Panthers?
I think Lance hit it on the head when he said when you're limited to a team, what's the incentive of the team to give you extra? Like to give you Tippett plus Samaskevich or Tippett plus Heponiemi or Tippett plus Denisenko. There's no incentive for them to do that when they know it's like basically their way or the highway for you. Otherwise, you're keeping Giroux because he basically said, I'm going to Florida. So when I saw it, I was at the Reading game, so I'm getting texts from 800 people in the first period of the game while trying to watch the game at the same time.
That makes it tough.
But like it was a reactionary of like, what the hell is this at first? And then it went to, okay, it makes sense now because we need the contract space, like Lance said, to sign our NCAA guy. So getting rid of Bunton and getting rid of Rupsov, who became, Rupsov was really an odd man out in Lehigh, and then Bunton has started to become an odd man out. And then you gave up the fifth with Claude. You got Owen Tippett back, who everything Lance said is true. As a skater, he's much better off the puck, than on the puck at being on his edges and stuff. So that encourages me for in the future. That's something he could work on in an off season to be more consistent on the puck, because he already is very good off the puck at being able to move on his edges and do that stuff. And also, I liked what he said in his quote when he came here about, because people question his 200-foot game, which still has to grow, but he acknowledged some guys don't acknowledge they have to work on their 200-foot game, and there are obvious guys that have to do it. He acknowledged it when he first got here, and that was very encouraging to me to know that he's somebody that very well analyzes his own game and knows the adjustments he needs to make over time. So I think that works well. I think it was also smart to put him with Morgan Frost, because for those that don't know, they did have similarities with each other, already playing with each other in the World Juniors at one time. So I think that did make sense. One of the few line pairings that made sense this year with our team. That was one of them. So all things considered, when I come to a conclusion, it's pretty much the same as Lance. We got what we could get, and Tippett's a good player. We need a sniper. We need a guy that can shoot. You got a third-round pick in a draft that's insanely deep in 2023. So that's even better that could be technically the worth of a second-round pick with how deep that draft is. And then you got a conditional first in 2024, which could move to 2025, but I don't see Florida having a top 10 pick. So I don't think anybody has to really worry about that. So I would say it's like around what Lance said, C+ to a B-. But one of the funniest things I saw is Jason Martinez mentioned on his podcast, somebody posted a thing where when we acquired Tippett, since he looks exactly like Helison, they literally just posted a picture of Wade Helison.
Yeah, I saw that.
I
saw that. Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
But I did see that. Okay, so I And he is a ginger, so he definitely fits into the Philadelphia way of life here because he's already a ginger.
Got Cam York, you got Wade, you got
Yeah. All right. So here's kind of how I'm gonna break this down. So it appears to me that this was I have to go much worse on the grade here, because I feel that if Philadelphia would have done right by him, they would not be in this position in the first place. Now, we talked about this with Jim and Isaiah the other day, and we didn't necessarily specifically point to the fact that the team didn't try, but maybe they tried too much. Like when they brought in Brizgalov, that like set the Flyers back so far because they're still paying that guy. I mean, $1.6 million, they're still paying him until 2024, right? So I really feel that if Philadelphia would have done a little better and maybe not have tried or maybe have done some smarter moves or done some other things, they wouldn't be in this position to have to try and trade Giroux to begin with. And we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So when you look at the player per player and what guys of lesser value got in the open market, this is a D- trade all across the board as far as I'm concerned. This was hardly anything back for Giroux. Hardly anything.
We also have to factor in, though, tenure. A lot of other people that got more in their deals were not the biggest rumors around the league I'm gone for 2 months.
I get it.
And I'm back to, which might not happen, whatever your opinion on if I want that or not.
I agree.
But that surrounds it. Hagel had tenure. Lindholm signed an extension.
They all did.
So, so everybody that got traded either had tenure or signed with the team they got traded to, where Z doesn't make that commitment.
That could have been something that, see, this is why I think this was bad, because if they would have done right by him to begin with, then they wouldn't be in this position.
Well, they should have asked for a conditional pick. If Giroux signs back with Florida, they should have got something more out of it. They could have done a little bit more for sure. But like we said, I think, Giroux's hands were certainly tied. Giroux certainly tied the hands. I heard Danny Briere was out there begging him, begging him, but asking him if, he could sway his deal for any other teams out there, just so they can get another hat in the mix, but that didn't seem to go. But as long as we're staying on the Flyers, Justin Braun just got traded as well for a 3rd-round pick to the Rangers. So that's pretty par for the course. Braun has been stepping up big for the Flyers the past 2 seasons.
2 seasons, yeah.
Being injuries this season to Ryan Ellis and lack thereof signing any replacement for Matt Niskanen. As far as the market goes this year, of course, there was guys, that went for more, Giordano and, Lindholm, like you said. But, those guys are on a whole different level, I think, and offer a little bit more than what Braun can offer at this point. Do I think he should have got the same kind of deal as Travis Hamonic and stuff like that? I think he could have went for a second, being that he is versatile. But at least we got rid of him for something, in that sense. So.
His contract is also expiring at the end of this year as well, too. Justin Braun is. But look, I'm not trying to take anything away from the fact that these other players didn't then sign these long-term extension deals with these teams that they got traded to. Okay, I'm not saying that. That was definitely could have been the case with Giroux or, whatever. All I'm trying to say is that I just feel that the Flyers should never have been put into a position to have to trade Giroux to begin with. Okay, so am I glad to hear that Justin Braun has been traded for a 3rd round in this year's draft?
Mm-hmm. 22, yeah.
No, 23. No, 2023. Yeah, Lash was right.
Yeah, 23.
23. So next year's draft.
Yeah.
which is
Okay.
better, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree because this year's draft isn't going to be quite as deep as far as that's concerned, especially as far as when you get into the later rounds. Most of all your talent's going to be in the upper rounds, you know what I mean? So I'm with you on that. So maybe I'm a little bit too overly critical of the Flyers and their management. Maybe I'm too overly what do you want to call it? Maybe I'm just not seeing things in the same light.
Have too much vested being a fan of that team for sure. Yeah, want to see them do a lot better than they are. So,
I mean, I do, and that's the thing because you get so much, but when you step back and look at it and go, all right, Owen Tippett, pretty good player, has a lot of upside, will be exciting to watch him play. Did get to watch him in his first game, and he looked like he slotted right in. Okay, so I have warm and fuzzies about him.
I think he plays very well off the puck, like Joe said. He knows where to be. He knows where to get to make some scoring chances. He is a goal scorer. He has that mentality. Just need to set him up as such. I wouldn't expect him to be a puck mover up on the point during the power play, but somebody that can slot in like Giroux did on top of the circle or something like that and rip a nice hard shot. That's what the Flyers needed most, a guy that will shoot the puck. And he should fit in nicely with, all the talented players coming up and help Morgan Frost and, the Connor McLennans and the Dejournays and Zade Wisdoms of the world coming up, Tyson Forster, of course. That group, that young core is going to be what the Flyers are working towards, and that's really the mindset that the Flyers have at this point. They're not going to be a contender next year. They don't have Giroux, their Band-Aid, their crutch, whatever you want to call them now. So it's going to be building for the future, and that's what they kind of did now. Somebody that can play NHL minutes now and will help the future coming up. So
I'm with you, and I agree with both of you guys. I agree with what Joe said too. The fact that I do like Owen Tippett. I agree with both of you guys on that. I just feel that that's the only thing that makes this deal worth anything in return for Giroux. I just. And I understand that Giroux basically said to them, look, if you can't do what I'm asking you to do, then I have to say that this is the only place I'm going to go. And they weren't able to make that request that he asked. And so he basically said, all right, well,
which you really can't.
I know.
You really. Because if you do that, you're setting yourself up to have a different situation like Arizona had in terms of tampering, because you're not supposed to have handshake agreements for a guy to come back once you trade him. That's not supposed to be a thing.
I get it. And I'm not even saying that's even – there might even be a thread of truth to that. All I'm saying is that as far as I'm concerned, I think the Flyers – should have never been put in this position. So that's why I give this whole thing a D-. But when you look at it analytically, it's a pretty decent trade because Owen Tippett's a pretty good player. I agree with Lance. I think it should have been a conditional first round. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that way, that kind of gives the Flyers a little bit more wiggle room, and it gives them a little bit better of an option. Do you know what I mean? And I don't mind the fact that it's not this year, but, a year or two down the road. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I think the organization deserves a D-, but I think that this trade is about exactly what you guys said, all that they could get.
So let's talk about some other teams now. What about Marc-Andre Fleury going to the Wild? What do you guys think about that?
You can go first, Steel, if you want.
I'll tell you what, this indicates that they are all in. Because with the trade that they made with Capo Kakinen, right, and then they brought in some defense. So they didn't just bring in Fleury. You know what I mean? Like, they have been making moves all day long. Do you know what I'm saying? Minnesota has. So I think Cam Talbot and Andre Fleury down the stretch is going to be that, because when they got into the playoffs against Vegas last year, the biggest thing, man, was their goaltending kind of just disappeared, and their physicality kind of disappeared. So they got some back end help, and now they got a freaking Vezina Trophy winning goaltender. So I'm good with Minnesota on this.
Yeah, I think it made too much sense for Minnesota to add a great goaltender, because Kokkonen, I think, has a chance to. He's only played a little bit above 50 games in his career, so he's not a fully developed product yet.
Exactly.
And he's already been pretty good. So him going to San Jose, who only has Solchenko, really, as a guy that looks like he might be more of a backup, but could maybe develop into a starter over time.
Great point,
Getting
Joe.
Kaapo Kokkonen makes perfect sense, because you have. I don't think did they trade James Reimer yet? I don't think they did, right?
No, not yet.
No, so they still have James Reimer. So if you decide to keep him, you have a veteran with Kokkonen, and then you can have Solchenko go back down to develop with the Barracuda. So either way, it's a very good move there. And then for Fleury, getting the conditional first is obviously very good for the Hawks. And then the Wild need that A-money goaltender, like Steele was saying. And I think it's perfect because obviously Chicago's defense wasn't too sweet this year. Minnesota's defense plays a pretty good system where they even got the most out of the Kulikovs and Merrills this year. Not that those two aren't solid defensemen, but that's what they are. They're solid defensemen that they're getting very good production out of this year. Exactly. And that just speaks to the coaching and speaks to the system you play. And they play a very good, well-oiled system in Minnesota. And now Fleury gets to go into that, and Cam Talbot gets to learn from Marc-Andre Fleury too, which I think is only going to help him in the future also.
Well, it's funny that you talk about defense as well, because Minnesota also brought in Jacob Middleton, who is a very solid pickup. A lot of people may not know who he is, but I think he's going to be a good piece even moving forward after this season. And you take a look at some of the other moves the Wild made. They did get Tyson Jost from the Avalanche. I do like him.
Oh yeah.
He's a guy that the Flyers were rumored to be kicking around on. If they made a deal with the Avs, maybe, who knows? I think he will be a good depth piece for them. And they got a tough guy from Anaheim. I really like one of the best fighters in the game there with Nicholas Delarzon.
The Warriors.
Yeah. That was back in the 19th. They did that.
He's got some hands on him, and he makes him that much tougher going down the stretch. So I really like that move as well.
Right. You know what I mean? So that's why I said they had made moves previously to try to bolster, to get stronger in the back end, to try to get, better, scoring depth. And now they're getting goaltending, because they're going to need to. Maybe they might not necessarily be facing Vegas this year in the playoffs, but they're going to be facing a team that's going to be very similar, I believe, in the playoffs this year as well. And they're going to have to be able to step up this year and win a series this year. And I think with what Minnesota has done, man, I think they get an A for today. And they're probably not even done yet.
I would say so, because in the playoffs, they also have a guy that's more valuable in the postseason than he ever is in the regular season in Bukestad, since he's 6'6" and bats people around the ice once the postseason hits. So he's a guy that's way more useful in that atmosphere than he necessarily is in an 82-game regular season.
No, I'm with you on that one for sure, man. I'm with you on that one for sure. So now, what I'm interested to hear about this too, because not only did Florida get Claude Giroux, but they went out and got Ben Sherratt, like even before they got Giroux. That was on the 16th.
And our old friend Robert Hagg.
Robert Hagg as well.
See, you guys are getting ahead of me here. Jeez. Right? And then, the next day they get Robert Hagg, and it's like, I'm interested to hear what you guys think of not just the Claude Giroux, but like Florida in general. Like what Florida has been doing this year to me, has been one of the most exciting teams, has been one of the most fantastic teams to watch, and now I get to watch Giroux play on Florida now, and Haig, right, and some of these other players that they've brought in here. I mean,
and Radko Gudas.
Okay, right.
That one still hurts. That one still hurts.
Okay, right. So what do you guys think about Florida with all the things that they've done, not just in acquiring Giroux, but in the other moves that they've made so far this year? Lance, what do you guys think?
I like it. They had a potent offense even before adding Giroux, but he just adds even more depth and experience to that offensive unit. But beyond that, again, like you guys said, bringing in Ben from Montreal and bringing in Haig, just amazing. Upon even having Radko Gudas, just their defense is just got a lot of snarl now and grit. So I really like that. You are not going to want to cross that blue line with those three guys there.
No.
I really like the moves that they made, and I really think they have the depth in net already. They're going to be a tough team to beat. Obviously, if it was me with Giroux, I think I'd rather go to Colorado with just the easier trek through the playoffs, I think. But, the Panthers have made themselves a contender with that other team down in Florida. Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay, and there's a reason why they won back-to-back cups. But, the Panthers aren't anything to sneeze at anymore. So they're going to have a chance, their first real chance at the hoisting a Stanley Cup since John Van Beesbrook has been down there the opening year. Yeah,
90s. Yeah. Joe, what do you think about what Florida's been doing? And now, Huberdeau's up for MVP, you know what I'm saying? And Bob has been playing really good, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Huberdeau definitely is one of the top contenders right now for the Hart Trophy, but I think that's the one biggest key is Bob's playing. He's not playing like the exact elite Vezina level he did but that was ridiculous what he did for back-to-back years.
Well, right.
Like most goalies aren't going to touch that other than if you're Vasilevsky. And also this year, the stratosphere is just where Shesterkin is, which is on a cloud 87.
Right. Yeah, so, I agree with you on that.
But I think Bob's been great. I think their defense, like Lance said, is absolutely fantastic. Giroux adds in the physical jam that Gudas also has. Even Lindholm that they have play in the minors for them with the checkers that comes off. He adds that. Offensively, you got Forsling, a great passing defenseman. Brandon Montour is also a very good passing defenseman that's also pretty darn good at shooting as well, that Forsling not as adverse in. He's more of a passer of it up the ice. So I think they have a perfect mix with their defense, and bringing in Robert Haig is just another guy that blocks shots, really hits guys off the puck, and plays that more playoff style end of season down the stretch role that you want to have in a defenseman. So that he probably honestly will play with Montour, since he obviously is a more experienced defenseman than Terry Lindholm. He's played 48 games this year. Lindholm's more of a minor league guy that gets some playing time when needed. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in with Brandon.
Right, and Ekblad is day to day with his lower body.
Is he just day to day?
I think so.
It says week to week on.
All right, I'm sorry, week to week. Okay, so I think that was another thing.
Nudavara is day to day.
All right.
Marcus Nudavara, yeah.
Okay, but I think that could have sparked the move for Haig, maybe by Florida to get Haig. You know what I mean? Because they had made that other move long before they got Giroux. So I think that could have sparked them to get Haig to come in down there in Florida because of that, week to week injury there to Ekblad. You know what I mean? So
what also shows how much they know they are in, like they're really going for it this year. And I love and admire every team that really pushes for it, because Ty Smilanic too is not a prospect to scoff at. He's a very solid prospect that
really
played at Quinnipiac this year. So they gave him up for a guy that they just think really brings great jam to their team on defense and isn't really for a typical top line defenseman, but he plays that great playoff style role. So that just goes to show you how much Florida is really pushing for it, and I will never fault a team for that.
No, and quite frankly, man, they have been very exciting to watch. I have tried to watch as many of those games as I possibly could this year, and I will continue to do so. And I will be definitely look on the Off the Ball Hockey Show. Me and John on Friday. Florida is our third ranked team in the Top Shelf Power Rankings. Right? It's Carolina or Colorado, Carolina, Florida, Tampa Bay, Toronto. That's our top 5 teams right there, man. What? So Florida is no joke. They've got over 40 wins on the season. They have one of the best offenses in the league. They don't have the best defense on the planet, but they're in the top 5. And they just added some good and depth and everything else with Giroux and all the other moves that they've made. And ooh, doggies, I'm excited about what Florida is doing. It's like a team that didn't necessarily need to do anything has done some things, because I think what Joe said, they are self-aware. They know where their weaknesses were, because let's face it, last year in the playoffs, or last year during the regular season, Florida was pretty good. And then they got to the playoffs and they ran into the Tampa Bay juggernaut and got just erased. Okay. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think Florida is building to take it to Tampa Bay now.
Yeah, I mean, usually Tampa Bay's stepping up a little bit more than they are this season. They did go out and get Hagel from Chicago. And that was a great pickup in its own right. But usually they're making 2 or 3 moves this time of year, and they haven't thus far. So it's interesting, to see, where it's all going to wind up. But my interest here are, besides who's getting who, is who's coming back, or who's getting the most out of the sellers in my mind.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Ooh. I think that's pretty tough. I think the Blackhawks, have managed to get some. Obviously, they traded a major piece in Marc-Andre Fleury, but they've gotten 2 firsts and a second back, and an underrated prospect in my mind, Taylor Radish. I really like him coming back for Hagel from Tampa Bay. Seattle has gained 4 second-round picks and 2 thirds moving forward.
And also 2 firsts. They also have 2 first-round picks too.
Yeah, all right. I mean,
Seattle.
Already. Yeah, Seattle. So, that's pretty darn impressive for the moves that they made most recently. The Ducks added a first, 3 seconds so far, and a first or a third round pick, and Drew Helison, who at the time of that deal, I was actually writing a piece how the Flyers should maybe trade to Sanheim or another piece, and something coming back in that Colorado deal, if they did make a deal with Colorado, was to pick up Drew Helison. I think he's a major player out. I think he played for Denver with Bobby Brink. So a good pickup there. Montreal gained 2 first-round picks, and like Joe said, Ty, a big standout star, with Team USA just a few years ago. So some of those teams have really gained a lot in the future through draft picks and such, and like we said before, the Flyers seem to be lacking in what they have given up already, and just the small chase. They did get an eventual first quite a few years from now, and a third possibly for Braun, but Hales in comparison to these teams that I just listed for sure.
Yeah, I think Lance hit it on the head. I also think Boris Kachuk has a chance. He's just a little bit older than Taylor, but he has a chance to mix into a better team to the now that's going to give him more of an opportunity, because they're not loaded like the Tampa Bay Lightning are. And I think that was the trade that was perfect for both teams, because the Lightning receive a guy with tenure that's very good already now, and Hagel, plus they get 2 fourth-round picks, which really helped them as well. And then, because the Lightning, to me, are one of the better teams at drafting in the middle rounds. And then
yes,
you have the firsts that come back to Chicago plus Kachuk and Radish. Like, that's a perfect trade for Chicago because you're rebuilding. You're trying to build your team up as quickly as possible. A first and 23, a first and 24, Kachuk and Radish are going to play right away, most likely. So that's really going to help you going forward. And the other trade I really liked for both teams is obviously two veteran defensemen were involved in it too, but the Lindholm trade, because the Ducks were able to get a first, second, 2 seconds actually, and Vakanainen I think is a good developing defenseman if you give him time to nourish, where a playoff run like Boston's in isn't the environment you necessarily want the kid in yet. So an environment like the Ducks that might be in a playoff run next year so he can develop up to then is, I think, the right environment for him. And then obviously the Bruins receive a great defensive defenseman that, given the right forward, sometimes has produced in certain seasons more. If you look at his chart, his offense does go up at moments, but his defense is always consistently great amongst some of the other defensemen in the league. So that's kind of what I thought the Bruins needed, a guy that just shuts people down on their defense as well to add to the left side. So I think that really helps them there. So I think those two trades to me, like Lance touched on, were the most perfect trades for both teams because they made just too much sense for both teams. And the other trade that was dark horse good for both teams was the second round picks, 22-23, the Kraken got, plus the third in the Giordano Blackwell deal, because Colin Blackwell's a sneaky good. Colin Blackwell's a sneaky good player for a playoff run, and then you also got Giordano.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too. I was going to ask what you guys thought about the Giordano move, because that was one of the ones I thought was one of the better moves, because I think that really, really helps Toronto. Okay? Toronto needs that back end help like nobody's business. Okay? They finally have addressed their goaltending this past season, and all day long, I think Toronto is a much better team than what they were last year. Okay. Now, yeah, we need to see it in the playoffs and everything like that. But here's why I say this, and here's some of my proof. Austin Matthews was just recently suspended for 2 games. And what did Toronto do in those 2 games? Went out and won them. Mm-hmm. Okay. Not just, they hung on, but they went out and won those games. Okay. And the Giordano and, like what Joe said, the sneaky good Colin Blackwell, I think is really awesome move for Toronto. Now, they did give up quite a bit, but they got 2 players that I think are going to help bolster them once you come down the stretch, once we get into the playoffs, because now Toronto is now playing the Tampa Bays and the Bostons and they're not playing just the Canadian teams this year. Now it's a whole different ball game now, so I really like that move. And then I also really like what Florida has done this year too. So
yeah, I think with Toronto bringing in Giordano, it adds, experience there to that blue line, especially more importantly, because Rasmus Sandin just went down with injury. So that was a big hole that he will be able to come in and fill and play some big minutes in that absence. I like what Toronto's done. The people in Toronto, just like the people in Philadelphia and Montreal, and it's a big market. They know their hockey. They're tired of seeing the team, be mediocre or mediocrity in a sense. They want to see something happen. They're paying big money to some big name stars there, in the previous mentioned, Matthews and such and Tavares. So they want to see something happen, and they deserve that. So good moves for them moving forward. Still a team that I see needing to make another move is Colorado. They went out and got, big physical defenseman and Josh Mason. But I'm hearing that they are trying to land Rackle as well, Richard Rackle from Anaheim. Sneaky good scorer there, could help on the middle lines. And no traction as of yet to a deal getting finalized, but I think he would be a good pickup for them.
Oh, wow. That's a good point, too. That's a really good point, too.
Yeah.
I mean, Anaheim has done very well as far as the last couple of years drafting, and they have a lot of great prospects on their team as well, too. You know,
A lot of good youth, yes.
just to reiterate and kind of go back here on what Toronto has done, okay? Because if you go back a little bit, they got Carter Hutton back in January, right? Then a couple days back in January, they got Ryan Dzingel, right? So, I mean, they have been building this team since January to try to get to that point. You know what I mean? So I really think Toronto is making the right moves, it appears, to get themselves over the hump, I think.
Yeah, I don't think anything's besides Giordano is blow your way, but just the right moves, like you said, smart, intelligent signings or trades that are going to help them not only now but hopefully in the future as well. So
Yeah, and then Dzingel, just for he's on the Sharks now, so he's not with Toronto anymore.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
Where I think the biggest move Toronto honestly made was in the offseason, which was getting Michael Bunton. Because Michael Bunting's played on their first line and has been the only reason he probably won't win the Rookie of the Year is because he's 26. Like if he was not 26, he would be exactly up there with everybody else in the Rookie of the Year conversation, where the whole age thing kind of nips you in the butt there when you get in the Rookie of the Year conversation when you have these 21-year-old and 22-year-olds kicking behind as well. But he was, I think, their most significant pickup, and then they just continued to build, get the Blackwells, Giordano, make the good small moves. They also signed Lethierry out of the KHL, who played very good in the Olympics and played amazing in the KHL, and to add to their goaltending depth. So they understand that they need to add to their goaltending depth, even though Calgren had a shutout in his first game. That doesn't mean everything's saved. So they added a Harry Sattery. I think that was a solid KHL pickup. I don't know how quickly he'll get over here. And then you got Calgren. Obviously, Peter Mrazek's a huge question mark because I'm 95% sure I saw he cleared waivers. And then you also have Campbell coming back, who's your obviously go-to guy. So that's the big key for them, having Campbell come back and stay healthy, because I don't have the confidence in Peter Mrazek in the postseason.
Exactly. So with all the moves that have been made so far, and the ones that have been made long before today, and even the ones that have been made today, do you think any of the teams do you think we've seen a shift in any of the teams? Like, I mean, like our power rankings are based off of the winning percentage, right? So all you have to do is go in there and go to the winning percentage, and there's your top 5 teams. So of those 5 teams, Carolina, because we didn't hear anything about Carolina doing anything.
I don't think they have to. I don't think they have to.
No, but I mean, but yeah, okay. But does Florida really need to do anything?
I think they needed to upgrade their D, and they did.
Okay, all right.
They didn't necessarily need to go out and get Giroux, but they did upgrade that D substantially, and really solidified that.
Okay, so what about Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay is 4th on the list. Did they do anything that was going to bolster their team, that's going to help them get over the hump, that's going to allow them to three-peat?
Again, I don't think they need to. Their defense is solid. They have the best goaltender in the league. They did get Hagel, whatever. A good piece there. But I don't know if they need to do a whole lot. They are the team to beat, and so I don't think they needed to. I think they did bring in a piece that can help them down the road there. So we'll see.
Joe, what do you think?
I mean, I think Carolina, in terms of Carolina, I think they technically did do something, because all their moves were made in the offseason One of the key ones being they overpaid him to bring him into their organization in Kotkaniemi, at least at the time of that.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah,
and then they extended him for a much cheaper deal that eventually is probably going to become a bargain contract. So
I'm with you.
I think
the
in the end,
extension.
they actually have set themselves up for success now, but also success down the line. Where I think that they're one of the teams that just fits into the rare category of, like, if you want to make a move to add a veteran that can help you, like if they had, say, a Chara or something just to have in their locker room, then like something like that might make sense because he's not going to play every game, but you have a guy that has the cup winning experience in your locker room. That could go a long way. Like, I don't think I see them making a huge move though.
No, I'm with you. Okay. Well, I mean, it just seems like some of the teams that needed to make some depth moves and needed to make some moves to help improve. Like, I think Minnesota has really, especially by adding some of the players that they've added, especially with Andre Fleury. Okay, that's a pretty good goaltending tandem there, and he brings that experience into the locker room. He brings in that, hey, I've won a cup, hey, I've won this, hey, I know what it's like to be down the stretch and whatever the case is. And I think they've added some extra pieces, some depth, and some more pieces into there so that they can withstand teams similar to Vegas in the playoffs, to where they can maybe survive more than just the first round or something along those lines. Maybe they can make a claw or scrap or something to try to go, deeper into the playoffs than what they did last year.
Yeah, like they play a St. Louis eventually or something like that. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's another team. I was going to say St. Louis. Like they really haven't done anything yet to bolster their roster, which is surprising. And that's where I was going to get at too. Who are some of the teams that still need to do something? Obviously, you said Carolina still hasn't done anything. St. Louis, and what names are out there? Maybe that we haven't or aren't exactly on the big board, as I say. I've heard JVR's name out there, possibly to the Rangers or to the Predators. Please. That would be a godsend. And a guy I really like in Max Domi. I think the Capitals have been a big name or a big team rumored to want him. And, they slipped in and grabbed a big name last year. Didn't really work out for him, but right at the end of the day. So who are those teams that may still have something up their sleeve as this trade deadline, looms ever closer?
Well, they did. Washington Capitals, speaking of, did get Marcus Johansen.
I think that was, a move, but I think the Caps, what I was getting at is saying that, the Caps really are one of those teams that like to go out and make a big splash late the past couple seasons. And I don't know, I think they're not done yet, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think the Johansen move was to get a more experienced player for Daniel Sprong, who doesn't have the playing at the highest level of the game and under the bright lights experience, so he can go play and continue to develop with the Kraken after the Capitals kind of set him on the right path this year, and he started to get going this year at the NHL level. So it's probably good for him to get more playing time with the Kraken too, and then they get a guy that I think that was let's trade for a guy that has more experience at playing under the bright lights and at the end of the season and into the postseason, where Daniel Sprong is still a fresh fish in the league. So.
Yeah, I mean, they did go out and get Mantha. That was the big name that I was referring to, at the deadline. But he's kind of been really subpar of the season at best for them, for what they gave up, for sure.
Man, here's the one thing that I'm going to say is this, and this has been quite impressive. I've just been scrolling down through here just to look at some of the things going on here. So just since, let's say March 16th, all right, Seattle, 2022 second round pick, 2023 third round pick, 2024 seventh round pick. That was for Kelly.
Yeah.
Right. The Giordano move, they get 2022 second round, 2023 second round, 2024 third round. For Jeremy Lazon, they get 2022 second-round pick. For Mason Appleton, they get a 2023 fourth-round draft pick. For Marcus Johansen, they get Sprong back, and then they get a 2022 fourth-round pick, a 2023 sixth-round pick. Are you seeing a trend here?
Yeah, they're obviously stacking up because they're a rebuilding team that's, well, or a building team, I should say, not rebuilding, a building team because they're an expansion team. They haven't built their team yet. They still are.
No, but I mean, like, good gravy. They have got so many picks in the 2023 and the 2022 and the 2024 draft.
That's what happens when you have a Hall of Fame level executive.
Mm-hmm.
See, what? Where?
I'm just saying.
Where is that? Can we get that? Can the Flyers get somebody like that, please? Can we? Anyway, I can dream.
Do you think there's any grounds or anything to Provorov moving? I'm hearing some sparks about St. Louis talking still about him. Do you think the Flyers would actually pull the trigger and get rid of Provorov? I mean, I think he has been asked a lot of him, playing 25 minutes a night for the Flyers, and he's had a subpar season this year. But over the past 2-3 seasons, he really hasn't had a player to play with. He's had Justin Braun that had to step up, a third pairing defenseman that had to step up and play with him. So, do the Flyers give away a guy like that? And what could they get back for him?
Go ahead,
I think they could get a haul back. It's just I wouldn't do it because I don't trust Chuck to get the biggest haul back for Ivan Provorov by any stretch of the imagination. I see him getting a C+ and B- level defenseman and a first probably, and then I'm going, okay, I like both of these guys, but not for Ivan Provorov. So like I would say at this point, from just the perspective of what's best for the team, unless if you get blown away, I don't think there's a sense of doing it. And somebody that I know we don't always agree with opinions, but that I talk back and forth with on Twitter sometimes is Anthony DeMarco, where he's more analytical to me. So that's why we don't always agree on everything. But I trust him when he talks to his sources, where he said when he asked the team on Sanheim and Provy, was like, that's most likely not happening. Unless if there was like that you got an offer that you almost fainted because the team offered you so much for one of the two, and you're like, okay, well, I would be stupid not to. Like, that's the only way I necessarily see that. With Sanheim, the way he's starting to be allowed to play the role he should have been allowed to play 3 seasons ago, it is really starting to let him break out more. That this is not the time I would trade him. This is the time I would let him develop into the guy that you wanted him to be, because you kind of, I said this on other shows, pigeonholed him because you never let him get great at the thing he was amazing at the NHL level before you threw 800 other things down his throat, which tends to be a going theme in Philadelphia area sports when it comes to some of their teams just shoving different stats down throats and what they have to improve on, rather than just letting them get great at one thing and then build, like it seems every other great team like Tampa, Toronto, Carolina, even Boston, like not to the highest degree in Boston, but they still get the most out of certain guys. So like where you got to be able to do that, you got to, and I think for me, that's the biggest issue with the Flyers. They don't get that, and they don't do the best in trades. I wouldn't trade Provorov now or Sanheim for that matter, because I don't trust the current regime.
Yeah, that's very true. But if St. Louis was offering top prospect defenseman Scott Purivanovic, you wouldn't do it? I would do it in a heartbeat.
Okay, but see, I think Joe made the very key point. We don't trust the current leadership to make a good enough deal to get something like that back.
Yeah.
So you're better off just keeping them. So you're better off just keeping them, because at least they'll be able to potentially help the team moving forward.
The thing with Purivanovic is I like Emil Andrea and think eventually he will make the NHL. If you get I also do really like Purivanovic, but do you want 2 5'8", 5'9" defensemen? But like that's something that you got to consider down the line as well in your lineup, where if they both are the top level like B plus above guys that are at that size, then you're set and you don't care. But if one of them's a C plus B minus level guy and the other's a B plus higher, it kind of becomes, well, we could add a little bit more size to our defense conversation down the line. But I do love him as a player. That would be something I would see. And then if you wanted a forward, obviously, if for some reason they go, well, we'll give you Neighbors and a first and yada, yada, then you might start going, well, Jake Neighbors is one of the best developing prospects we might want to look at. So there's certain things that come to, but that kind of goes in the blown away category. Like those would be guys that I would be surprised St. Louis offered us, because I think they know they have aging guys that they would want those guys to come in for to replace in the future. So I would be kind of shocked if they threw one of those guys our way as well.
I would have to agree. I would be completely shocked. But just to let you guys know here, we got Edmonton Oilers get Brett
Kulak.
Yep, Kulak for William LaGarrison, Montreal with Edmonton. And then the Ottawa Senators get Zach Zenshin, right winger, and a 5th-round pick, 2022 5th-round pick for Josh Braun, and a 7th-round pick to the Bruins. So that trade just happened now. The Oilers.
That makes sense because Zenshin requested a trade.
Yeah. And Josh Braun is not a bad return, and a 2000 right, and that's what they need. And to go along with Lindholm, who they just signed, you know what I mean, that big deal that they just gave that player that they just his name is escaping me, but to get a 2022 7th-round pick and Josh Braun to the Bruins for a 2022 5th-round pick, and Zach to the Ottawa Senators, and then also the Edmonton Oilers get Brett Kalyak, defenseman, for William LaGarrison to the Montreal Canadiens.
William LaGarrison, I told this to Pirlo when I was on his show. If he has time to develop, which obviously in Montreal he will, I think he has a chance to be a third pairing defenseman and then try to work his way up from there. I like what I saw from him in Edmonton, and Edmonton plays pretty shoddy defensive system that Woodcroft's trying to fix. So that you got to take that into factor. You got to take that into factor when you talk about a defenseman out of Edmonton as well. Similar to when you talk about defenseman out of Buffalo, unless if you're McCabe, that just plays great no matter what situation you're thrown into.
Right. No, I'm with you. What do you think about those last couple moves there, Lance?
You know, not the big names you want to see going off the board, you know, but give it another half an hour and you might see some more. But like we've said, a lot of the deals of recent memory, of recent deadlines are becoming earlier and earlier, weeks out before the deadline, instead of, you know, the old days when I would, you know, call out sick on a day like today from work and just sit there and watch major trades after major trades happening. I think teams are realizing that it's better to get guys earlier and get in there and get them used to the system. So who knows? I think they're good trades for the team. I like you guys said, I think Edmonton needs some help on defense. I really, really like watching them. And I believe that coaching change has helped, but they really need to work on defense. And obviously, you know, goaltending needs to still be addressed there. If they're going to be an actual contender, they got offense for days with the Oilers. But, you know, good pickup, but not the big names you want to see being fired off the board right now.
I agree 100%. You know what I mean? So
I do think Kulik is in the one of the biggest underrated guys on the trade market list, though. Yeah,
for sure.
I agree. No, I agree. You know, but
I don't think he's going to be the defenseman to push him over the edge. But
no,
definitely somebody to come in and.
But he's a much better defensive defenseman than Duncan Keith, who can't do anything on the defensive end at this point of his career.
He's a little long in the tooth, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you guys are saying. You know what I mean? And I also agree too that I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that the trade deadline was so late this year, and that it normally is in February. And I think that's why a lot of teams went early. And I think that's why a lot of teams started doing things much sooner. Because, like, look, let's face it, there's only 5 weeks left of the season. That doesn't give you a lot of time, especially if you're pulling in somebody like an Andre Fleury or a Claude Giroux or, somebody like that to get acclimated with your team. That's why I really love what Calgary did with the Toffoli move. And they did that way back in February. You know what I mean? And like, hey, let's do this now. So this guy has time to get acclimated, and you're not spending, how many these last 5 weeks just trying to get your guy up to speed, on what's going on, how he fits in, and everything else. You've had that period of time to do that. That's all I'm trying to say. I just think that this was all completely affected by that. So that's my take on all of it.
One team too that I will say, because they have to have cap, obviously. I saw they added Brian Little's contract, and I also like the fact that the Coyotes gave up a second to get somebody that already looks like he's worth a second round pick in Jack McBain to go down there, who got picked in the third round, but definitely is projecting higher than a third round selection already out of BC. So I think that was a perfect pickup for the Coyotes, because they need to pick up those young guys you keep growing in. And not many people are going to want to sign with a team that's playing in a 3,000 person stadium next season. So getting a prospect that he doesn't have much of a choice once you have his rights, he's going to sign with you and work his way up there, that can shoot the puck and also pass the puck. That also adds size to your lineup as well. And that brute kind of through you force. That's a very smart move, I think, for Arizona.
Yeah, they got to get those pieces, like you said. They got to get those pieces, because they're going to get nobody in free agency that's already an established player, in my mind. So, getting players like that will be able to step in possibly, as soon as they're signed and help that team, being that he is coming from the NCAA and has played at a high level. I think that transition period will be very short for him. So good pickup by Arizona for sure.
Yeah, and gosh, boy, they just need everything.
All right. Well, I'm checking now. Says Florida is involved in a 3-team deal to get Martin Jones. That's getting worked out right now. So why would Florida want Martin Jones, or possibly something else that's interesting to me? Maybe Martin Jones is going somewhere else afterwards, as soon as he gets traded, because Florida has got rid of better goaltenders than that, and Devin Levi and stuff like that in recent trades, because they have the depth there. So that's an interesting one.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Wow, did that come out on the ticker, or?
That's off of Hockey Buzz right now from Eklund. Just a couple of different. I'm checking a lot of different rumor sites and everything. As you can see, my eyes going all different places and such. So odd. But if we could get rid of him, great, because there's been some other goaltenders that have gotten moved. If the Flyers can get anything for him, that'd be great. At this point, he has played pretty solid considering the defense in front of him. So we'll have to see if that transpires within this last hour.
Wow, yeah, because the deadline here is coming up. The time is 4:00 today, right?
3, yeah, 3. And then you gotta, you can have your deals
fudge
in
for an
3.
hour or two.
Yeah, you gotta have a deal in the works, or at least in the mailbox heading to the league office by then. So
okay, I got you. It has to be postmarked by
3:00. Yeah,
3:00. All right, at so 2:59, 59.
right.
Okay, got you. All right, my man. Well, thank you very much for that great update, and that's awesome, man. Look, this wasn't quite the trade deadline that it normally is, but still exciting. We still got to see some great moves happen while we were even recording the show. You know what I mean? So, Lance, why don't you tell the folks where we can get you, where we can find you, and where we can get all your great articles?
Sure. As always, you can get my stuff at flyersnittygritty.com, steelflyers.com. You can check out the show that myself and Steel do generally on a weekly basis at the Hockey Writers Inc. That's on YouTube or any audio platform you care to listen on. You can catch all of my stuff on Bleacher Report, or you can check me out on Twitter at LNGBASSIST, the number 39.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Joe, my man. A lot of great stuff going on. Where can we get you? Where can we find you? And where can we get all your great articles as well, too?
Well, you can find the different stuff on Steel Flyers, of course, Flyers Nitty Gritty, and then on my YouTube page, I've been doing a lot of different hockey and baseball stuff because the trade deadline and free agency period post-lockout interlocked. Yep. So that kept me extremely busy. Exactly. So those will be videos that are up on my YouTube on Sports Fanatic News. But it's always fun. I think this was actually a really good deadline. It just was, as we talked about, very spaced out. It wasn't everything on the final day where, like Lance said, he would call out sick. I would just be sick at school. And then watch NHL Network once it got created for the entire day. So this one was just spaced out because of how deep into the season it was. Like you said, Steel.
Well, what we used to do is we used to have we'd set up a conference room in our office. And in the conference room, we would have TSN running, NHL Network running. We had all the, Hockey Buzz was all rolling. We had all the websites rolling. We had the TV up and running. And every once in a while, you would just duck in there and watch for a little while and catch up and see what's going on. And then you would leave and go back to work. Right. So we would have that running all day. But, man, guys, listen, thank you all very much for doing such a great job on all the things that you guys do for SteelFlyers All Sports Network. Professor Joe and I do the JB and Steel show. That's a great show. You can catch us out on YouTube. That's also on the SteelFlyers All Sports Network page as well, steelflyers.com. Also, Lance and I do the show, the Hockey Writers Inc., where we talk all about the Philadelphia Flyers. You can check that out as well, too, on www.steelflyers.com. And also all of the podcasting platforms out there, from Apple to iHeart to Google to Amazon, you name it, we're out there. We're on there. Get us, check us, like us, and subscribe. Thank you all very much for watching the SteelFlyers All Sports Network. This is our trade deadline coverage with Professor Joe and the great writer extraordinaire, Lance Green. We will catch you all on the next time. Just remember, folks, stay safe, stay strong, and hang tough.